Different patient, same unit. This one's not screaming at you from the monitor. Blood pressure is 100 over 70. Run the math you learned last time, and the map's a very respectable 80. Nothing alarming here. And yet, his skin's cool. Capri feels sluggish. Urine's trickled down to almost nothing this shift. And the lactate you sent an hour ago just came back higher than the last one. So if the pressure's fine, what's wrong? Last lesson, we said every low perfusion problem is one of two levers, the pump or the nozzle. Today, the nozzle isn't the story. It's clamped down exactly the way it should be, doing its job. So we zoom into the other lever. Today, we crack open the pump itself. Cardiac output, CO, is just how much blood that pump moves in 1 minute. And it comes from exactly two numbers, multiplied. How many times it beats per minute and how much it ejects with each beat. CO equals HR times SV. That's heart rate times stroke volume. Say a patient's heart rate is 80 and every beat ejects 65 milliliters. 80 times 65 is 5,200 milliliters a minute, 5.2 liters. Normal cardiac output runs about 4 to 8 liters a minute. So this patient sits comfortably in range. Quick one before we go on. Patient A, heart rate 60, stroke volume 100 milliliters. Patient B, heart rate 120, stroke volume 50. Pause it. Which one has a higher cardiac output? Trick question. They're identical. 60 times 100 is 6,000. 120 times 50 is also 6,000. 6 liters a minute, both of them. Two completely different looking hearts producing the exact same output. That's why you can't eyeball cardiac output from a heart rate alone. It's a product of two numbers, not one. Exam tip. Cardiac output equals heart rate times stroke volume. If they hand you both numbers, multiply. Don't guess from the heart rate alone. So heart rate is one knob, but stroke volume, the other half of the equation, isn't one number either. It's set by three things happening inside a single heartbeat: preload, afterload, and contractility. Preload is how stretched the ventricle is right before it squeezes, how full the tank is at the end of filling, roughly the end diastolic volume. More stretch, up to a point, means stronger contraction back. That relationship has a name. It's the Frank-Starling. Fill it more, it ejects more, until the muscle stretched past its useful range and the curve tips over instead of climbing. Afterload is what the ventricle squeezes against, largely the same systemic vascular resistance we built out fully in HEMO 1. We're not reteaching the nozzle here, just naming it as the thing the pump has to push through. Turn that resistance up on a heart that's already struggling and stroke volume falls because it's harder to eject against. Contractility is the muscle's own intrinsic squeeze strength, independent of how full it is or what it's pushing against. The bedside proxy you'll see on every echo report is ejection fraction, EF, the percent of the filled ventricle that actually gets pumped out. Normal runs roughly 55 to 70%. At or below 40%, that's heart failure with a reduced ejection fraction. HFrEF, 41 to 49 is mildly reduced, and 50 and up is preserved. At the bedside, EF on the chart tells you about contractility specifically. It doesn't answer preload or afterload for you. A patient can have terrible EF and still be volume overloaded or volume down. One number doesn't answer three questions. Now, back to our cool low urine patient. Pressure's fine, appropriate SVR, but perfusion's failing. Which of the three knobs would you check first? Echo, if you've got access. That's the fastest yes or no on contractility. Say it comes back EF 30%. There's your answer. A weak squeeze, not an empty tank, and not an overloaded outlet. Pitfall. Reflexively bolusing fluid into a low cardiac output patient assumes the problem is preload. If the tank's already adequately full and the muscle is what's weak, more volume doesn't help the squeeze. It can push an already struggling ventricle further along a flattening Frank-Starling's curve. Ask which knob first, then react. One more twist on the heart rate. The one HEMO 1 left as a cliffhanger question. More beats per minute should mean more output, until it doesn't. Here's why. Every beat needs time to fill before it can eject. Speed the heart up enough, and you steal from that filling time. The tank doesn't finish filling, preload drops, and so does stroke volume. Baseline. Heart rate 70, stroke volume 70. That's 4,900 milliliters, 4.9 liters in a minute. Now, push the rate to 170 without giving the ventricle any more time to fill. Filling collapses. Stroke volume falls to about 20 milliliters. 170 times 20 is 3,400, 3.4 liters. The heart rate more than doubled and cardiac output fell. That's the real answer to why can a heart rate of 180 lower cardiac output. It's not that fast is inherently bad, it's that fast enough to outrun filling is. So here's the whole clinical habit. 1 level past hemodynamics 1. Low output. Ask which knob. Is the tank empty? Preload. Is the pump weak? Contractility. Is the outlet clamp too hard for this particular heart? Afterload. Or is the rate wrong? Too slow to move enough blood or too fast to fill? The answer to which knob is what picks the intervention. Fluid only if the patient is generally preload responsive. In inotrope, if the squeeze itself is the problem. Afterload reduction if the failing left ventricle is fighting too much resistance. Rate control or pacing if the rate itself is the knob. Doses and drug choice will live in the vasoactive series. This lesson is about naming the right knob before anyone reaches for a bag or a drip. One picture, the whole lesson. Cardiac output equals heart rate times stroke volume. Stroke volume itself comes from 3 knobs: preload, afterload, contractility, and heart rate is the 4th with its own limit. Too fast steals filling time. 4 knobs, 1 pump, 1 question every time. Which one failed? 3 questions. Say them out loud. 1. Heart rate 90, stroke volume 60. What's the cardiac output in liters? 2. Name the 3 determinants of stroke volume. 3. EF comes back at 30% on a cool, low output patient whose SVR is appropriately clamped down. Which knob failed? Answers are pinned in the comment. Next on the map, the nozzle, properly, SVR and vascular tone. Hemodynamics 3. Then vasoactives, where these 2 objects turn into an actual drug choice at the bedside. I'll see you there.